Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week with a creator request, which is where a smaller artist gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their work. Today we're going to be looking at LILI REFRAIN. We've actually had her work on the channel before, back when I used to group up a bunch of these into a segment I called Sounds from My Inbox, but it's nice to catch back up with her and see what she's been putting out recently. And this is incredibly recently. This is last week. It came out on the 15th. Let's check out the track NAGAL and see what LILI REFRAIN is bringing to the table today. Nice little tapping, a little syncopation on the sides. Oh, we're building percussive layers. I'm excited to see what this develops into, but I'm loving the little journey of building this groove. And it is groovy. There's that pickup note on the and of 4. Da-dum. Da-dum, that first hit, little pickup note. It's very moody. Almost venturing into eeriness. Ooh, that really low percussive instrument, it almost has an electronic element to it. It's the bounce of it. It's got like, it's a cool sound. Yeah, you got my attention with this. Beautiful vocal work. This part of the solo, we heard it in the last time we had the guitar melody as well. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what mode that is. Okay. That syncopated idea over here brings a bit of levity to a track that's been rather aggressive and moody. And that's a tapped guitar part, double tapped, right? That's a very smooth legato delivery. Still have the big synth underneath everything. Bringing in that tension back from the beginning. That's a new percussive part. It kind of does tie everything together though. Is it fading out? No, I don't think it is. What an interesting way to wrap this up. Huh. All right, so we have a slow burn exploration here. The first minute and a half almost, is setting up the percussive layers, which I thought was pretty cool. I think that's a neat way to explore that, because it could easily have just been, here's the percussion, bring in the bass, bring in the guitars, and we would have sped up that process a bit, but I liked seeing how it all came together. In fact, I honestly felt it was a little off-putting at the very start. The very first rhythm was not something that accentuated the downbeat very clearly. So we got a little bit of syncopation first, and then the context or the reference for the syncopation, which made it all click a lot better. So I thought that was kind of cool, because it gives this feeling of finding your way in the darkness, or initially being lost, but you know, finding your ground, finding your landmark, something along those lines there. But as we continue through this, we add more and more layers until what starts off as just a couple of hits on some percussion becomes a rather confident drum beat. So if there is this feeling of, you know, finding your way when you were initially lost, we have this rise into confidence, into having faith in oneself. We kind of lose that harmonically though. right after this drum part, we get some pitched instruments coming in, and it's eerie, it's moody, it borders on creepy, but it's definitely not, it's not joyful. It's not really neutral either, but I don't know if I would call it eerie. I don't think any part of it felt scary. There was just a brooding to it, something heavy, a weight to carry. By the time we get to the end of the track, I feel like that's mostly gone, and I think that's a pretty cool journey to go on here. We have these little micro stories and then the full journey of the track. But here at the beginning, it is a bit heavy, it is a bit moody, it is a bit dreary. And this is also where we're introduced to the electronic drum part. It has this really cool bounce to it, where instead of just getting the sound and then it tapers off, there's like this bounce to it. And a little bit of like a lasery fizzling element. I think that's what really sells the electronic part of that kit. Up to this point, everything sounds rather acoustic, wood blocks of sorts. Yeah, I think that's what most of it sounds like to me. But then we get this very electronic tom, and I think that's interesting because the rest of the song begins to embody more of an electronic side as well, and it's this cool merging of acoustic and electronic. Although it's quite possible at the end of the day it's all digital, but at least it has the auditory qualities of acoustic instruments. We get a guitar in here though as well. We get a synth that gives us this nice low end. We have some sort of bassy instrument. And these fill out the harmonic side of things. We also get some vocals in here, and I'm going to touch on those later, but it does flush out a little bit of the higher end and gives us melody on top of the atmosphere, the harmonic qualities, and the rhythmic qualities. And this is where the song really starts to take off. I guess this was about, I don't know, 2.5 minutes into the track. From here, we explore more melodies, we explore harmonies on the melodies, we have more vocal parts coming in, but the instrumentation doesn't really change much. Towards the end, we have some guitar runs, we have more vocal layers, we have a shift in the harmony, in the melody. The end of this track feels like it's overcome something. I was going to say triumphant, but that's the wrong words. But there is a coming into here, maybe full self-realization, something along those lines. It feels confident in the way that we saw at the beginning prior to the moodiness showing up in the atmosphere. This is once again an element of joy, a completion of something. There is celebration here is what I'm getting at the end of this track. And I love the little journey of adding layers, adding instruments, modifying instruments, removing some, adding others to get to this point. It isn't like the song just switches at a section and says, oh, now we're playing this new ending. We build into it. There's a natural progression into these final moments that feel quite distinct when you place them back to back with the opening chords. And I think this entire song ends up, like I mentioned earlier, feeling like a series of small journeys that talk about a larger evolution, growing from insecurity into confidence. Or at least that's what I get out of this track. But I did enjoy the general journey throughout this one. What I think stands out to me a lot, though, is the mix of tones. I mentioned wood blocks, but we also have the electronic instruments, the digital ones, but we also have electric guitars in here too. It's a bit of an eclectic mix of sounds, but it ends up working well together, especially with the, I don't know, quasi-ritualistic vibes that go on through most of this. It feels both modern and folky. And I think a lot of that comes down to the composition being a bit more on the folk and possibly even like pagan side of things, while the instrumentation is modern. And it never feels awkward or cheesy or anything like that. It's done in just enough measure to add its little flair. The electronic part works. The electric guitar worked. It never overpowers anything. But I also like the guitar playing in here too. A lot of the times when I would hear a project like this, the guitars would be atmospheric because they can be these big, massive sounds. You just strum a chord and you allow the reverberance and the distortion and all that to color the atmosphere. But we have a tapping guitar line here, which I thought was pretty cool. It gave us a lot of the momentum towards the end of the track. And that was over here on the right, but on the left, we had lead guitar melodies. And these solos, man, there's something about them. At the start, it was the third chord that they explored. I can't place it. It sounds familiar enough. It's not like it's a brand new avant-garde type of combination of notes or something. Although, what even does that mean? Microtonal, I guess, would be the only thing experimental. It doesn't feel completely out of the blue, I suppose is a better description, but it's not an incredibly common sound either. It is tense, but not in a way tension is typically portrayed in music, which is through dissonance. I honestly don't know how the tension is achieved here. It has to do something with note intervals and sequence of interval movements, but like I said, I can't place this sound to really know how exactly the note intervals are influencing this. I found that to be really interesting though, and I want to dive into that harmonically and figure out what's going on there. But there's also on the side of melody writing, just generally strong linear melodic writing going on. The solos feel like they naturally move forward. They don't feel stagnant. They're not really showy-offy, but they're not boring either. It's like a solid story being told to me. And especially that against the counterpoint of the tapping guitar over here and the synth coming in underneath and all the syncopation of the rhythm. I was really enjoying the end of this track. I do think, as a slight element here, it went on a little too long for my tastes. That's just a subjective thing. But there was a point when I was like, oh, we're doing another 8 bars of this, huh? But I don't think that has too much to do with general repetition, because the lead guitar line was still doing its linear thing. So it was just that I think I personally was... I had my fill of this moment and I was ready to see what came after it. But generally speaking, it worked, dude. Reaching this point, coming out of the darkness and finding this confidence, finding this joy, and having all these layers come together on all these different wavelengths. I mean, we have a bunch of... Well, honestly, each instrument's playing something on the simpler side for the most part, but the way that it all comes together and the layers create something dense and complex. And I love how we started from just a couple of wood blocks and evolved into this. So once again, it feels like a story of evolution to me. And I do enjoy the sonic landscape of this. I enjoy the melodic writing. I enjoy the narrative of all of it. This is a solid track. Let me check out some lyrics for this, see what's going on there, and then we're going to wrap this one up. All right, so unfortunately I couldn't find any lyrics for this, but I am reading a little bit of extra information about this. Maybe you'd be interested as well. Lili's a solo artist and performer that builds the sound through analog loops, electric guitars, synths, percussions, and vocals in order to create emotional soundscapes. So I caught on to a lot of that. It says that her music moves between cinematic, tribal, opera, metal, and more. I'd like to see some of those other elements. The vocal work in here was really strong. I don't think any of it would move into the realm of opera, but also wouldn't surprise me if she could sing that way, given the almost classical delivery in many of these lines. It's about the breath support, it's about the delivery, it's about the control. I hear a lot of academic elements to her vocal style that tells me maybe she could do a Praddick style. It also says that she released her last full-length album 4 years ago and has since been touring as headliner, but also supporting High Lung and Ivor. And those two make a lot of sense. I can see her music working well with those two bands. This album comes out on March 27th. If you're interested in it, I'll probably be checking it out because I quite enjoyed what was going on with this track right here. And that's going to wrap it up for today. These are my thoughts on LILI Refrain's Nagal. What did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on this? Please let me know. Put all of that as well as anything else you'd like to add into the description, into the comment section below. In the description box, you'll be able to find a link to my link tree, sure, but also I'll have a link to whatever her link in bio is, her streaming sites, social media, whatever I can find. If you're interested in finding more about her as an artist or more about her work, those links will be down there in the description for you to find. Also, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. If you head on over to any of her places, like, subscribe, heart, star, whatever it is, show her some love from the Critical Reactions community. I slurred right through that. I had no enunciation. I think I'm getting a little tired right here. That's going to wrap it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC. As usual, we're going to check out a full album since it is Saturday. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.